Welcome to the Created Worthy podcast. I'm your host, Danielle Damrell, and I am so grateful that you're here. On this show, I talk about creative processing and how to utilize it as a skill to bring peace, joy, and freedom into our chaotic lives. I also sit down with the most incredible guests as they share their stories, many of which for the very first time. We are all created worthy. Jeanne Aegis is a former corporate escapee of 15 plus years, turned founder of Self-Care Journey Holistic Wellness. She is known for being every woman's self-care coach and is currently an executive contributor for a digital global magazine as a holistic lifestyle and self-care coach. Since becoming a mom of two and being the co-creator of her dream life with her husband, she has been a frequent speaker on guiding women, especially moms, to prioritize themselves with holistic self-care practices without feeling guilt, despite the many hats that they wear. She has also been featured in a number of publications such as Yahoo Finance as one of the top 20 female entrepreneurs. She is also a top 20 female entrepreneur to look out for in The Digital Journey, Authority, Medium, and Brains magazine. Jeanne is a 2021 honoree of the CREA Global Awards for top entrepreneurs, influential leads, and innovators who have been recognized for their accomplishments in the areas of mental health. With decades of experience in the fitness industry and several certifications in holistic health and wellness, life and success, and as an NLP, EFT, and hypnotherapy practitioner, she has been fortunate to help hundreds of women worldwide to create a sustainable, balanced, and healthy lifestyle by using self-care as their superpower to look and feel their best. She has built thriving programs teaching do-it-all women how to build a strong body, confident mind, and healthy lifestyles so that they can reignite their inner spark and reclaim their time, energy, and joy. Jeanne, thank you so much for being here and recording with me today on the Created Worthy podcast.
Thank you so much for having me and that lovely introduction.
It is seriously such an honor to have you on here because we were just talking before the podcast how we've been wanting to record and do this for quite a while, many months. I think the first time we met was back in March. We had like a Zoom meeting and just connected, and that was so fun. I talked about my podcast, but I hadn't even started it by that point.
And look at you now.
I know.
Look at all you've accomplished.
I'm so excited. Yeah, I would love to start with you just telling me a little bit about your story. Where are you from and what's your life? Tell me your life.
Yeah, sure. Ooh, okay. So I'm from Canada, and the birth of my company really started when I was young in terms of, honestly, my mom. So the reason why I'm so passionate about self-care and why I call my company Self-Care Journey Holistic Wellness is because I grew up with a mom who, after having children, she really put herself at the bottom of the list. She didn't really prioritize herself. She didn't really know how to prioritize herself. Just literally being with us and raising us was all she knew after that, right? And she put everything in like her career and everything on hold. And, when I was growing up and just seeing that, it really painted a different type of picture of what I imagined a mom would be.
Right.
And I think it really, played a role in my decision making in my 20s, because seeing that and growing up with that and seeing how like I love my mom so much, and she's so selfless when it comes to being a mom. And, me being a mom of two myself, two rambunctious toddlers, now I can say that, right? The role of being a mom is very selfless, but I felt like, she really took it to that level where, I was afraid to be a mom for a very long time. And the way that my personality and the way that I was very much, it's not for me. For a good part of my life, which really, dictated the relationships that I invited into my life, or, my decision making in terms of, it's almost like I felt like, I'm not in a rush.
Right.
not going to be a mom anyways. So I, it wasn't until like, I got to the age where people, my friends were starting to have children. And
Yeah.
that's when it's like, okay, maybe I do want to be a mom. And like
Right.
what did they call that? Maternal instinct just like kicked in.
Yes.
And I was like, okay. And then, obviously like went through a couple of, relationships that didn't work out. But then, when met my husband, just everything just fell into place. We
Yeah.
literally like we met and literally he proposed 7 months later.
Really? Where did you guys meet?
We met actually online. We met
Really?
online. Yeah, yeah, we
Okay.
met
Which,
online.
where?
Bumble.
Bumble.
We
Okay.
Yes,
That's the
yes.
one where I was like really never, I was on dating apps for like 2 seconds, but I could never figure it out. But Bumble was the one that was where women pursue men, right? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
Yes. Yes. That's the one that I was like, okay, at least you have more control over it.
Right.
Right. And I had kind of tried out different other ones in the past, but this one, after kind of like wanting to be serious about who I was going to meet, I definitely wanted to kind of take it onto like a more serious app where I would have more
Right.
control. So yeah, it was Bumble, and it was funny because at that moment I was really immersed in the health and wellness world, and I was already waking up really early. Like at that moment, like I had a morning routine, and I woke up at like 5:36 before I had children. So it was already instilled in me before I had children, and I would work out
Wow.
during that time.
Wow.
And yeah, I
So
would work.
yeah, you had developed those habits like before having children. Honestly, okay, I don't know how much of my story you know, but I had my daughter at 19 and I did not have healthy habits in place. And now that we're trying for more children, I'm like I do not regret my daughter. I'm not saying that. But the timing would have been a lot better now than it was back then. So, yes, I totally hear what you're saying because I'm like, yes, developing healthy habits before having children, like I'm sure do you feel like it helps you to enjoy parenthood more as well because you've like set your body up for and your mind and your soul?
That's what I definitely say. Like, I definitely felt that way, like, before I was even a mom. I was like, I'm doing all these things to be as strong and as healthy as possible prior to. And
Mhm.
it wasn't always like that, by the way. It was quite a journey to get to that stage. And
Right.
like I'll talk about that after. But when I got to that point, it was just like I knew what I needed to do to become a mom, because I knew that if I didn't do this to be healthy, I knew that I may not have had the resiliency that I know parenthood comes with. Because by that
Yes.
time, I already had
You
some
had
mom friends
friends.
who
Yeah.
shared with me their experiences. And then, growing up with even my mom saying, it's hard work. It's a lot of work, right? And my
Yes.
own personal views of it already, I'm like, yes. I mean, I knew that exercise, how you nourish your body, what you think at that point. Like I was in personal development, and I knew that okay, this is what I need to do if I wanted to evolve and be
Right.
a mom, and I wanted to take this into my role so that I could also teach my children.
That's awesome and amazing and exactly what a mom should do. I wish that that was possible for every mom to like have that realization and have that ability. It's not obviously like everybody has their different stories. So, you were in the corporate world, right? For like how much? 18, 15 plus
15 plus
years.
years, yeah.
What were you doing in the corporate world?
So I was in media, and
Okay.
then yeah, I was media for a
What part of
public
media?
Canadian broadcasting company. Just they were
Oh,
so yeah, so the CBC, they were a
okay.
broadcast company in Canada, and I was in media there for a good chunk of my career, which I loved. And then I moved on to another firm, which is one of the big fours in accounting, which like
Okay.
it's just it was one thing after another, kind of, right? And I didn't realize it then, but I do realize it now, where I didn't really know what I wanted. I kind of went
Yeah.
through school and doing all these things thinking that this is what you're supposed to do. This is this checklist. And my parents are like, you need to go to university, you need to graduate, find a good job, find a husband, have a family,
Yeah.
be a mom, and then it stops there.
What did you get your degree in originally?
In business, and I got a bachelor of business administration, and I
Okay.
specialized in marketing communication. So that was always my realm. Like I love this. I do love media. I do love the marketing communication aspects of everything. So I was able to bring that in my corporate world, but it wasn't my passion.
At what point did you feel like pulled towards holistic health? I assume you were working in marketing, right? And then
Mhm.
you there had to have been something that was like, okay, actually, this isn't my path. What was that?
Well, I think when I was in the corporate world, I think it was hard for me to really realize it because the holistic health part was just like part my passion, like part of who I was. It became my identity, but it wasn't like that because it took me a while to get there. Right. I had gone through like my own body image issues. I had gone through like an eating disorder. I had to really figure out what being healthy means. I had just because I'm Chinese and in the Asian culture, I just feel like, back in the day, if you're anything more than stick skinny, you were considered plump, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was very much tough love to me back in the day. And then just seeing what I saw and then just thinking to myself that I needed to look a certain way in order to do certain things. Even pursuing my passion as in media, in as an entertainment correspondent. I'm like, I'm not like all this like negative self-talk.
Comparing, I'm sure in that world it would be so easy.
Yes. Yes. And yeah, had I known now had I known then what I know now, it'd be just completely different. So when I came out of university, I worked at a gym. And that's the transition where
Okay.
I, really aligned myself with a lot of mentors, started training, started really understanding, what it takes to be healthy, which is more than just your body, more than just, how you're perceived. It's beyond that. And I became
Right.
obsessed with it. I became obsessed with just like, people need to know this, that it has very little to do with how you look and very much to do with how you feel and think and act.
Right.
So yeah, and then that was right before I went into the corporate world. And that was, yeah, pretty much 15 years later. I was really called to do it when I became a mom, to pursue what I'm pursuing right now, to be in what I'm doing right now. I've always been kind of coaching and into personal development world prior to,
Yeah.
and like doing side projects.
Right.
But in terms of really giving it my all, it wasn't until I became a mom and said, okay,
Wow.
after my first, I'm like, I did this throughout where I implemented my same self-care practices, the same self-care regimens prior to being a mom. The picture is, okay, moms don't have time. Moms can't do this. Mom can't do that, right? That's the picture that I grew up with. I'm like, I'm determined to do the opposite. I'm determined to do all those things because I recognize how important and how imperative it is to my life. And I did that with my first. Obviously, it was hard, right? But I valued and prioritized it. So by the time I was pregnant with my second, I'm like, I need the whole world of moms or people who want to become moms, or not even just moms, just any woman really who, we are just we're so selfless, and we tend to give a lot in general of our time, so many different things. So it's just important for us to recognize that just because we do things for us, it does not mean that it's selfish or mean,
Right.
narcissistic or anything. It's like it does not have to be all or nothing. We just need our, mental health as well.
Yes. I feel like you're speaking straight to my soul right now because, like, physical health is just something that I'm just recently starting to, like, really prioritize and understand and learn about. And mental health has been my priority for the last 10 years. Like, I've
Mhm.
had to get my mental health and work really, really hard intentionally to get my mental health in check before I could even process how to take care of my body. It's been like a really weird shift evolution, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, everything you're saying, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I am not good at taking care of myself. I really am not at all. I go, and I do for a lot of different people all the time. And I do feel like my calling has a lot to do with serving other people. That's like, I want to serve and inspire and lead. And I feel that's what I'm called to. But there's also still a balance, right? Like, cause I'm a mom and I have a husband. My husband and I have only been married for 3 years. It'll be our 3-year anniversary next week. And it's been crazy. Like just trying to figure out how do I be a mom and be an intentional, clear, focused, good, stable mom. Stable is the hard part for me. While everything else in life keeps going, right? So there's always things that come up or plans that change or whatever. And different courses of action. For Ella, my daughter, she has, I don't know, we don't know what she has, but she's been in OT since she was 18 months old. She's 6 now. And was in behavioral therapy, and now she's in OT again and talk therapy. But she has a really hard time regulating her emotions. And so, and therefore wants to control the entire house with her emotions, like wherever she's at. So it's like a constant battle to be a mom to her. All that to say, thank you for sharing this. And what keeps you sane? Like, how do you prioritize your mental health while balancing your physical health?
It's definitely has to be very intentional, but I really want to thank you for just sharing all that with me too. It touched my heart as well. But just my why is so important, right? So I mean, as hard as some days are, nothing is going to look perfect. I think sometimes we imagine, okay, we got to do this, and this. We got to check this, and this, but it does not look like that.
Right.
And every single time I have a moment where I feel like I may slip in terms of prioritizing certain things, mental and physical, I think about why I'm doing it to begin with. And I tie it with a really emotional why that really tugs at my heart, that is greater than me, right? For me, that's my children, and wanting to be alive for them and wanting to run around and be physical. Like with my daughter's like running around, like volleyball, all these different things. I want to do everything with her. Right. And so when I think about that and I visualize like 5, 10, all these years together, that's what I picture. And in order for me to do that, in order for her to for me and her and my son and everyone else to have a good relationship, it requires me to prioritize my mental health and my physical health, right? To avoid my mood, or, you know what I mean? And I always joke with my husband, if I don't work out, do not talk to me because I am a different woman.
So what do you do on bad days though? Everybody has bad days. So how do you support yourself on those bad days?
Every day sort of looks different when I have a bad day. Like sometimes I'll have my go-tos where, you know, I will talk to a friend. I'm very, I don't internalize. I like to share.
Are you a verbal processor?
I am.
Me
I'm
too.
like, I need to talk this out. If something happens, I need to call a friend, tell them what happened, and have them dissect it with me.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I definitely do. So that's like my verbal journal. And then sometimes it is literally throwing on a podcast, right? A positive, motivating, inspiring podcast, and doing physical activity, or just listening to the podcast in general, but something uplifting, something that, you know, makes me feel like it's not whatever I'm dealing with. It's take the focus away from me.
That's such good advice. I was actually like, I'm writing it down right now. I'm like, how to deal with bad days.
We all have them, right? I think, you know, I had recently posted a really vulnerable post because I think that with social media, it's so hard for people to see past that. You know, I had a client of mine who told me like, oh, she's working on comparison and some things trigger her. And, you know, I just kind of told her like, no one has it perfect. Everyone behind closed doors is dealing with their own set of obstacles, right? And I think by telling ourselves that, we can self-regulate and not fall into those, like what I like to call the 3 deadly C's, which is comparing, criticizing, complaining, because that's what you're going to end up doing. And it's going to create negative energy, and it's just going to be one negative spiral.
Right. And it goes so fast, at least for me. I know once I go down that train, it's hard to crawl back out, and it
Yeah.
takes super intentional work. So another question that I have for you is, creative processing is something that I talked about in season 1 of my podcast. Are you familiar with creative processing? A little bit.
Enlighten
Okay.
me.
Okay.
Tell me more about it.
It basically is super simple. It's just the idea that you use a creative outlet to process an intentional something. So in your life, do you have anything that you go to intentionally process when, let's say, something happened with your daughter, or you're really upset in your motherhood? Is there something that you go to process that? Or if something happens with your husband, other than obviously calling someone?
You know what? The funny thing is, I now kind of, my captioning in my social media is my journal. So whatever I'm kind of going through, or whatever, like I know as entrepreneurs, we talk about batching content and doing all these things, but sometimes I'm very inspired in the moment to create the content the day of, depending on what I'm going through. Right.
Yeah.
So if I'm having a day where I'm feeling really overwhelmed, I could talk about time management and productivity like I did today. If I'm going through, just the vulnerable post the other day was about the fact that we shouldn't compare because of all this, like, smoking mirrors when it comes to Instagram, and just really expressing that. So if you put a collection of all my posts together, I could create a book, which I am doing. So I am writing a book, right? So it is going to be, because I'm already writing all these things, and that is my creative outlet. And I want to share those experiences with other people, because I find that when we don't, we feel isolated and alone.
Yes.
And that's the hardest part.
And I think it's different for everyone. Like,
yes.
Somebody like you and we feel isolated and alone if we can't share that. But I know I have a few friends and just people, even within the pitch club, that I'm like, some of them like really need to be they're in a just season where they need to create alone and they don't want to share it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's their journey. And that's
right.
really cool too.
Absolutely.
I just love hearing about everybody's different creative processing outlets, because I know that everybody has them and everyone has a different answer. Like, for some people, it's cleaning. For some people, it's journaling or reading the Bible, or, whatever the different things are. But everyone's is so different. And it's not just like crafts or what you typically think of as like creative. So that's just why I love to ask that question.
So mine is social media, basically.
Yes. Social media content, sharing with others. The heart of it is you have to share with others. That's how you're processing.
Yeah.
That's what I do too.
And my outlet, I would say, like, if I need to really process, like, my emotions, would be movement as well.
Okay.
To help work through that, as like, if I were to take another definition of the creative process, I would say that my outlet would definitely be my exercise.
I love that. You're the second person to say that too. Another question I have for you is, what is one piece of advice you would give to someone looking to escape the corporate world like you did?
I would say to not make any decisions based on your current self right now, but make a decision based on your future 2.0 self, right? What would that identity, that person do in that moment? And oftentimes the current self is filled with fear, filled with a lot of anxiety and previous conditioning of, experiences that may not have worked in their favor. And if we constantly always do that, we're always going to be operating at our current level and not really breaking through the ceiling and our comfort zone. And I've been in my comfort zone for as long as I remember. If you ask any one of my friends, you can tell, like, I'm the safest person ever and would not invest in anything unless I knew that I was getting something out of it or practical. So if I were to tell myself down the road that I would become an entrepreneur, where, like, who knows what's going to happen, I would have never guessed that. So allowing myself to really put myself in that position of who I want to be and what would they do? What are the habits? What are the systems? What would they take a leap of faith? Would they go for it? Would they invest in themselves? That's what I would say.
Yeah. I that phrase, invest in yourself, is something that I've been like trying to think about a lot recently, because I'm like, what does that look like? Like, I feel a little bit lost in the entrepreneur world because I didn't have more. I was in the corporate world for like 2 years. And then I became an entrepreneur and I've just tried a bunch of different things and realized that the path that I was on was not my path. So, and it actually was as I started really learning about the foundation of entrepreneurship that I realized like I'm out of alignment, essentially. I need to be working within alignment or it's just not ever going to work. I'm going to continue hustling and doing this stuff and not being able to make a livable income because I'm doing the wrong thing. And so, yeah, that concept of investing in myself now as somebody who is, claiming I am a writer, I am a speaker, this is what I do. And I have actually gotten a few clients just since announcing that. And that has been like,
Congratulations.
I'm
Oh,
like, oh
amazing.
my gosh, this is so exactly what I'm
Such a
supposed to
sign.
do. It is a
Mm-hmm.
sign. It's a huge sign. But it's still a little bit overwhelming in the like, okay, I know I'm now in alignment, but how do I optimize that? Like, how do I invest in myself with this new alignment, And so now I'm going through that process of like, okay, what things can I outsource? And also, like, I didn't think I could afford, but I actually can, you know,
Mm-hmm.
just little things like I'm going to be learning about advertising. If you have any advice on this, I would take it for sure. But I need help with somebody else advertising my podcast because that's not within my realm. And
Yeah,
it deserves to be advertised, right? Like
absolutely.
people aren't going to know unless they see or hear or know. Word of mouth is obviously huge, but my audience is literally all over the world, which is so cool.
It's
So
amazing.
cool. But it's not like a concentrated, place to be spreading by word of mouth. So, in this digital age, advertising is one of those investments that I'm like pondering and trying to figure out. So, that is really good advice because I kind of feel like I am that person. Like, give me your advice, even though I'm not in the corporate world.
Beautiful. I think a lot of things could be applied to, you know, no matter
Yeah.
what part of your journey you're on, right?
Mm-hmm.
That maybe that fear or even what we are talking about, the being out of alignment
Right.
and not really knowing or understanding that that actually means you're out of alignment, right? We
Yeah.
kind of feel like something's off, we're hustling, but we don't know why. And then we finally realize once we listen to ourselves and our internal voice, and it's like, wait a minute, this is not who I am. This is maybe too masculine for me. Maybe I need a little
Right.
bit more feminine touch.
I love that. That this whole like feminine energy movement, I'm super intrigued by. I'm like, okay, tell me how to step into my feminine energy. I want to do that.
No, me too. I actually feel like I started off with a little bit of a masculine energy, which is like go, go, go,
Me
do, do,
too.
do. And now, like you said, give me more of that feminine energy, that
Yeah.
empowerment, that like, letting it flow, be in alignment, do what you love, right? And it will
Yes.
come to you. You will
Yes.
magnetize it.
And it's cool too because I feel like as I step into mine, just naturally my husband gets to step into his. And
Oh,
that's like really
beautiful.
cool to see. I'm like, okay, by being in the place that I feel like I should be as his wife, I am empowering him to be a better husband. Like I'm giving
Mhm.
him the ability to lead in our marriage. That's how we want it to look. So that's what we work on and work towards. And for him, leadership is not natural. So I have to empower him to lead or he won't do it. It's
Mm.
not a natural thing for him. So it's just been cool for me to like step back and be like, okay, I'm going to just like focus more on what feels in alignment again and what I feel like my role is in our marriage that we want it to be together. So it's cool. It's cool to see that
That's
shift just
amazing.
within marriage.
And how you complement one another and bring
Yes.
out your strengths.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
So, how would you define self-care
Mhm.
needs?
Yeah.
Your topic was why self-care needs to be redefined. So, could
Well,
you redefine it?
yeah, no, absolutely. So first of all, I think people still have that fixation with self-care being all about how you look or, certain luxurious things because people still feel like they need to preface self-care, which to me makes it feel like, okay, self-care is still very much attached to that association as we transition to what self-care really is. And to me, self-care is doing all the things that fill your cup, that fills your soul, that makes you feel good on the inside, and that really moves the needle for you in your life. So that could, for self-care, that could look like different things for everyone, right? But it really is a very preventative process in our health, and something that we need to implement every single day and have it disassociate with anything that is where it's just the manicure, the face mask, which I call self-maintenance.
Mhm.
I call that self-maintenance, whereas self-care, I call everything else. And also
Right.
the part about, you know, doing certain things to allow you to be aware of your thoughts so that you can self-regulate.
No, that's so important. You have to make space and time to be aware of what you're experiencing, what you're thinking, what you're feeling. That's like the biggest healing tool I've gotten from many years of therapy is like checking in with yourself and making time to just feel. Like if you need to feel, feel. If you need to process, process. Like being able to identify that.
Yeah. And if I have learned anything from my years of being a mom, well, only like 4 years of being a mom, but yeah, it's the fact that it's something that we need to be intentional about. So no one's going to give it to us. No one's going to be like, okay, here's this time for you to do this, this, and this. If you don't prioritize it, no one's going to prioritize it for you. You have to make it a priority. You have to put value behind it. And sometimes people don't put value behind it because maybe they don't feel it themselves, like they're worthy of it, right? That everyone else, deserves all this, but me, right? Like I,
But we're
could.
created worthy.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah, I think that has been my mission, working with women, is to make them see that it's not about, I can share the whole system and tell them this is what you should do, eat, all the things that we think about when we think about wellness, but it's the actual implementation part. Like, how do we get from I know this, but I'm still not doing it? And how do I do it consistently? It's
Yeah.
hard, that
It's
gap,
hard.
right?
For
I feel
sure.
it too. Like, I understand it. You have to be very intentional with it every single day. And you have to really, really, again, attach your why to it.
Right. Oh my gosh. I love how you said that. It's so perfect. Can you tell me what your favorite podcast, book, and song is?
Ooh, oh my gosh. Okay. I don't know about song. It's so, can I be honest with you with a
Yeah,
song part?
for sure.
For when I was younger, I used to like love music. And when, I don't know, like video channel, like when TV was more kind of like, versus now where it's all on the internet. And I used to listen to music all the time, even in the car. But now all I listen to is podcasts.
Really?
So I don't really listen to music anymore. It's funny, my daughter knows more music and knows the lyrics of songs more than I
Oh,
do.
yeah.
I'm a pop girl. So anything like the Backstreet Boys, NSYNC,
I love
Britney
them.
Spears,
Oh,
all,
yes.
all of that,
Bring it back.
right? But that was like a long time ago. So I don't really
Right.
have much current ones.
That's
But
okay. That's
it's the
okay.
truth.
I was in a season, was it last year or the year before, where all I did was listen to audiobooks. And then after that it was podcast.
So
And
good.
now I'm listening to a lot more music. But it happens in seasons. So
Yeah, no, you're
yeah.
absolutely right. And I think mine would be actually audiobooks next, because there's so many books that I want to read but just can't get through to,
Yep.
right? To sit
Yep.
down and read. So audiobooks, I think I'll get it more. Like I'll be able to read or listen to a lot more books.
Oh, I love it. I listen to books on repeat on Audible. I've listened to Brene Brown books over and over and over because I'm like, it's just so jam packed with amazing, insightful information. And every time you listen to it, it's different. So that's what's different about it from podcast is like, a lot of times that you remember a conversation or stories or whatever, but in a book, it's just totally different. It's like you can pull so much more out of it. And
That's
I stop
interesting.
and bookmark, and I have quotes all over my desk from books that I've listened to and listened to multiple times. My favorite was Oprah. Oprah did a book. I love Oprah.
Yes, me too.
It's called The Path Made Clear. It's super short. The Audible book is like 2 hours and 45 minutes. And it actually is interviews. The audiobook is like actual recorded interviews, and it is amazing. Absolutely incredible. So many like nuggets of amazing information and people that I've learned about through that book that I would have never known about. If you start doing audiobooks, check it out.
Putting that one on my list for
Yes.
sure. Yes.
So what about your favorite podcast?
Jay Shetty.
Okay. What is that about?
Jay Shetty is, oh my gosh, so he was a monk and turned like podcaster, influencer, and he was actually one of the reasons why like I'm so pumped about personal development. Like I was always into personal development, but then I found him, and he's only, I think his podcast is fairly new, but I binged it so much because he's able to really turn what we're thinking into actionable, tangible things that we can actually do.
Right.
You know how you hear things and sometimes it's like, oh, it's easy to say, but hard to do.
Yeah.
Whereas he'll break it down like the key nuggets, and it's just so insightful. And he just goes through so many different things about personal development, the mindset work, health and wellness, all the things that I'm very passionate about, building a lifestyle, building meaningful relationships, being present, gratitude, all these different topics that are just right up my alley. And I run with it. Just maybe I don't have time to listen to audiobooks because I'm listening too much to Jay Shetty, but that is definitely what
That's
I'm
okay.
doing
That's
all
the
the
season
time.
you're in right now, though.
Yeah.
That's good. That means that there's something for you to gain from that and him and his podcast. So keep doing it as long as it's fulfilling you. That's what it is for me. I always get to this point where I'm like, okay, I'm overloaded kind of, like I need something new. I need something different, but stay in that for as long as you can though, because that's meant to serve you in a way, in a certain way that you're being drawn to.
Oh, I love the way. Yeah. I love the way you said that. That really resonated with me. It's true.
Well, thank you for sharing that. What about your book or your favorite book?
Well, right now I'm actually really into Atomic Habits with James Clear. Breaking down kind of like how to make habits a little bit more easier so that we can build a system and actually change our outcome and our behavior. And the reason why I'm so fascinated with it, I mean, it was really well written, and the process in there is very doable, but it is a lot of what we do or who we are and our outcome is based on our habits, right, and the system around it. And I think what I really like about it is instead of, focusing on the outcome, we focus on the identity. We focus on who we want to be. What is it that we need to create to support that? And then what are the habits that we need to get there? So it's just reverse engineering, how we want our habits to be laid out. And I take that with me in my life. I take that with me, with my work with my clients. So that's a book that definitely resonated with me a lot, and a book that I'm reading again currently.
I love that. I need to read that book. I've seen it all over. And I'm like, I know I need it.
I know it's calling to you. There's too many books to read and listen to. There's too many.
Yes. Okay. So do you have any exciting announcements or projects that you're currently working on that you want to tell me about?
Yeah, sure. Well, right now, I mean, who I work with is mainly like, my one-on-one clients. I work very closely with them on my 12-week program. It's called Survive to Thrive. And, I created the self-care system so that women really we can get to the root of their sabotage. Like, what are some reasons why they don't do what they want to do or prioritize themselves, rebalance their life, and then go through the things that, make them, strong and healthy and live a life with joy at the end of the day. And we go through all of this together for 12 weeks. We create everything from a wellness strategy together to, having a plan to keep them accountable, to all the necessary steps in between with my self-care that really at the end of it, my clients are able to kind of get amazing transformation, because it's not just focusing on one area. It's also tying, life into it. Like, it's not just health, it's also your mind. It's everything tied together. And I think that that's what makes the program unique. So I'm very, very excited to continue on with that. I will be offering that as a group in the beginning of the new year. And I'm also writing a book on around redefining self-care and what that means, and also my personal journey, as a mom, and what we have to deal with as a modern woman, which is very different from kind of like what maybe our
Yeah.
moms back in the day, and the pressures, and talking about the guilt and the overwhelm and building boundaries, all those things is what is in the works right now. So that is what I'm focusing on.
If you do an audiobook, I will definitely listen. I cannot keep promising that I'll read books because I am so ADHD and reading is actually really hard for me. But the weird part is I'm really good at editing.
Oh, okay.
So I just edited. Do you
Interesting.
know Dr. Christine Manukin?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I just edited and ghost wrote like their entire book. And
No.
it is, yeah. And my husband co edited with me. It's so cool. I've made all the graphics for it too. And then I'm going to write the foreword in the next book and potentially help her write her biography. Because I'm like, Christine, if you're branding yourself on a story, you need to tell your story.
That's incredible. Oh
So
my goodness.
yes. So yes, and I'm building a recording studio in my basement because I also want to offer as a service recording audiobooks. That's yeah, it's really cool.
Well, we need
It's
to
weird.
chat then. We need to
Yes.
chat.
We should definitely chat. Yes. If you ever just want to talk through your book content, I'm here. I love listening and asking questions.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing what you do, and I think that that's, yeah, a resource I'm definitely gonna tap into, so thank you.
Yes, of course. Of course. I am really excited to hear about your 12 12 weeks, right?
12 weeks to Survive to Thrive, and then the program is that I founded is Self-Care System.
Okay, that is so cool. Can you tell our listeners where they can find you at?
Yeah, they can find me on my website at www.selfcarejourney.ca, and also my Instagram, which is jeannie.selfcarecoach. And I also have a free community called Strong, Confident, and Healthy Living on Facebook, and where I jump in, I do lives and daily tips and posts and all that for inspiration. So I'm all
She's
over the
really
map.
good at posting in her group. I have a created worthy group and I am not engaged at all. I am so sorry. But your group, I always get notifications and I click in, but then get distracted.
Oh,
But
100%. No, I know.
I have read quite a few and people go there and they're like engaged and it's a really cool group. So good. I just such a cool resource that I'll definitely link in the show notes as well.
Thank you. And I wanted to add one more thing that
Of
I have.
course.
So I have a YouTube channel, which I have created, but I parked this year, but I'm going to go back to it, and I'm going to, start creating content and having that also as my additional outlet as well to share my journey, but more on a personal level, like more behind the scenes.
I love that. And then you're also on Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm also on Instagram. So basically my world is really out there.
Yeah.
My life is out there.
Google her and you'll find her. Google her and you'll find her. Jeannie, thank you again so much for recording with me today. Is there anything else on your heart that you just want to share?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, follow that little voice in your head, right? That, not your thoughts per se, but that inner voice that's not the inner villain, but the one who wants you to do the things that might be uncomfortable, but will make like such a difference to your life. I wish I listened to her a while ago.
That is such good advice. Listen to your person. Listen to yourself. Danielle, listen to yourself.
Make sure you know it's the right self, though,
For
right?
sure,
Not what I call the inner villain, but yeah.
No, don't listen to the inner villain. My inner villain is so loud, though. Sometimes I'm like,
I know.
Get away from me. Well, thank you again so much for recording. It was an honor to have you on here, and I cannot wait for people to hear your story.
Thank you, Danielle. I'm honored too. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to the Created Worthy podcast. If you want to connect more, you can follow along with me over at Danielle Damrell or Damrell Creative Co. on Instagram and Facebook. All the links to today's topics are in the show notes, and you can also find a link to my Patreon, which is where you can help support my mission on this show and keep it going. Ratings and reviews really do matter, so make sure to hook me up with 5-star review. Any less, I would rather hear your opinions over email. So anyway, if this episode resonated with you at all, share the love, send it to a friend, or post it on your social media. But don't forget to tag me so I see it and can share it too. I hope all of you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you on the flip side.